right now, there's this high-stakes economic game playing out on the world stage. And what started as just a few trade disputes, well, it's blown up into something way more serious. Some are even calling it an all-out economic war. So let's break down what's really going on. To really get what's happening, you have to picture this. We're stepping inside a gilded room at the U.S. Treasury. It was right here, of all places, during a government shutdown, that this really dramatic declaration was made that basically set the stage for everything to come. And that was it. That was the message, delivered in no uncertain terms by top U.S. Treasury and trade officials. It was a massive escalation in this global trade war, a conflict that kind of ties together all the major economic currents swirling around us right now. I mean, the setting for this announcement was just surreal. Think about it. Most of the U.S. federal government is shut down, right? But top officials gather this small group of reporters in this historic marbled cash room, and their whole goal, to deliver one single crystal clear message to a world that was watching and just completely bewildered. Okay, so what does this economic Cold War actually look like? To really understand the conflict, we've got to look at the weapons each side is bringing to the fight. And we're not talking about tanks and missiles here. This is a battle fought with tariffs, with supply chains, and with control over absolutely critical resources. So on one side, you've got the United States. They've built this massive wall of tariffs, the most intense system we've seen since 1933. And on the other side, China has pulled out its most powerful weapon, tightening its grip on the export of rare earth elements. So what even are rare earth elements? Well, they're basically the essential building blocks of our entire modern world. I mean, think about your smartphone, electric cars, the most advanced military hardware you can imagine. All of it, every single piece, depends on these minerals. So you can see how controlling their supply gives a country an incredible amount of leverage. And you can bet the U.S. sees this as a huge threat. Secretary Bessent did not mince words, calling it a Chinese chokehold on the entire world. He framed it as an act of economic coercion aimed at, well, everybody. But here's where things get really weird, kind of paradoxical. Despite this escalating trade war, despite a falling dollar, the U.S. economy has been surprisingly okay. It's been resilient. And the reason why is probably not what you'd expect. So that's the big puzzle, right? The one that's got economists scratching their heads. The U.S. has pretty much walled itself off, but the consequences you'd expect, higher prices, a hit to our living standards, they've been weirdly quiet so far. So what's the deal? What's protecting it? Well, the answer, according to economists at J.P. Morgan, is this massive wealth effect, worth about $180 billion a year. And where's that coming from? From the booming stock prices in the AI tech sector. Basically, the soaring stock market is making a lot of households feel richer, and that's insulating them from all the economic drama. And that, of course, leads to the critical question, is this economic shield we're relying on made of solid steel, or is it just a fragile bubble built on super frothy tech valuations? The line between a boom and a bubble is pretty much impossible to calculate, but there are some really worrying signs out there. And yeah, the warning signs, they are absolutely there if you know where to look. We're seeing this kind of hubris, like a crypto fund ringing the opening bell at NASDAQ to celebrate its stock launch, even while its share price is tanking. Analysts are also pointing to these really convoluted deals where tech firms are investing in their own suppliers. The whole thing just has these echoes of the dot-com boom right before it all came crashing down. But look, this isn't just a simple two-player game. America's traditional allies are completely caught in the crossfire. And behind all the diplomatic handshakes and photo ops, there is a lot of growing frustration. This quote from an anonymous G20 finance minister, it just says it all, doesn't it? The U.S. has been spraying tariffs in pretty much every direction, not just at China, and it's left its partners confused and honestly wondering who's on their side anymore. And this isn't just one person feeling this way. Privately, among some of America's closest allies, this is the mood. A senior G7 official put it this way: the U.S. is trying to corral the rest of the world against China, using absolutely everything as leverage. And this climate of suspicion, it's just breeding deep, deep uncertainty. So here's the crucial point. This isn't some carefully considered strategic game of economic chess. Not at all. What we're actually watching is something far more chaotic, way more unpredictable, and frankly, a whole lot more dangerous for the entire global economy. One of the best metaphors I've heard for this whole situation is that it's not a game of chess with masters thinking 6 moves ahead. No, it's more like playing pool by just smashing the balls around the table randomly and then trying to break the cue or even the table itself. It's just reckless.
Which brings us to this final perfect image. You know the Roadrunner cartoons, right? The global economy has basically done that. It's run right off the edge of a cliff. It's still pedaling furiously in midair, somehow defying gravity. But we all know what happens next.
So for now, all the world's finance ministers are just crossing their fingers, hoping everyone can kind of muddle through. But that hope is looking riskier and riskier every single day. The real question isn't if gravity is going to take hold, but when. How long can this defiance possibly last?